Hey YouTube, for this video let's take a look at the Soviet Union in this game of Axis and Allies Anniversary Edition. Now we are going to be using the 1942 setup. This version of the game is both a 41 and a 42. We'll be using 42. The Soviet Union goes second with this setup. Japan, which I recently posted a video on, goes first, and then the Soviet Union, and then Germany will be the third video in this series. That's also why you see German units over here with control markers in Soviet territory, as well as Japanese control markers along here and down here, because it is 1942. Now the Soviet Union, their strategy early on in particular is going to be a simpler one, especially compared to a country like Germany, like we'll be getting to in a little bit. Your job is to counterattack where appropriate and hold on as long as possible. Now there are some advantages you have in this version over some other games. Certainly the versions of the game that came before this one. This one came out in, I think it was 08, might have been 07, I think it was 08. It's going to take Japan a lot longer to get through China to hit you from over here than it would in previous games. You also have Burma down here. Granted, Japan controls it, but it's another territory on their march over to India. You don't start with a factory here like you do in 42 2nd edition, but you do get an AA gun over there. There are a few more territories compared to Revised, which I believe was the most recent core version of the game prior to Anniversary Edition. Got a couple more territories up here. Territories are also worth 1. In the original game, Classic, these are worth 2, and there aren't as many territories. You've got that advantage as well. So you're probably not going to be worried about Japan coming in this way quite as early as in games preceding this one. So for the beginning of the game, you're going to be focused entirely over here. Now there is one thing that you are going to want to do right away. It's use this lone sub up here. Now what I typically do with that is I'll just move it over here to reinforce the British fleet, create one more unit that the Germans have to kill, one more unit defending when they try and take out the British Navy, if they try to do that, which they most likely will. As far as the rest, you have quite a few territories along here, and it's important how they all interconnect. We are going to want to take out as much German offense as possible on this first turn, and really everything that's in range is going to be in Ukraine and then eastern Ukraine over here. We've got a tank and 2 tanks. There are no fighters in range, there are no other tanks in range. So we will want to take out both of those 2 territories. Now, this can create a problem because Germany is going to want to take back one or both of those, and if we leave these infantry in Belarus or Belarusia up here, which normally I would recommend because infantry defend better than attacking, and if we're just attacking a stack of infantry, we're probably going to suffer more casualties than if they were attacking with that infantry. However, in this case, these infantry border here, and we're probably going to have a fair amount of our offense there at on Germany's turn, and so I also like to attack Belarusia, even if it's with a bunch of infantry and maybe a fighter or something, just to clear up this flank, meaning that Germany can only counterattack here with the land forces that are here, because the other 2 border territories you've taken away from them. So I like to attack all 3. That is going to spread you out, but it is going to take out that German offense, and if they try to attack everything back, they're going to be very spread out. If they consolidate and only attack 1, maybe 2 spots, then you'll be able to focus your attention. You'll maintain control over at least 1 territory you took, and you can focus on where the Germans are focusing. That does mean leaving Karelia open, unfortunately, but the Germans have a couple infantry here, and they have a transport here. They can move up, and they have infantry in the Baltic states here to either send this way or this way. And so you're probably going to lose Karelia anyway. You could put a couple infantry up there, maybe build two infantry there, maybe leave an infantry or two behind, just to try and hold it for an extra turn. But that is going to make you weaker here. And so you'll definitely need to make sure you optimize how you spread out your offense so you can accomplish all of this. Now, you only start with one fighter in this game. You do get a bomber, unlike in other versions of the game, and you want to make sure you use both of those, as well as your tanks. I'd recommend concentrating them more on eastern Ukraine because it's going to be harder for the Germans to counterattack you there, and then you'll be able to maintain your tanks. Ukraine is going to be a little bit easier for them to hit down here. They can hit it from both Bulgaria, Romania, as well as East Poland can move into there. They've got more troops there, more infantry fodder. Whereas in eastern Ukraine, if you take Belarusia, they literally have just what's in Poland, 2 infantry and an artillery in terms of ground forces. So you're probably going to lose whatever you move into Ukraine, so you want to be heavier with the infantry there, or at least have fewer tanks there. Concentrate the tanks up here instead of down there, while making sure you distribute both your infantry and tanks in such a way that you can take both of those territories successfully. Now, the other thing we need to be on the lookout for is Caucasus. We're going to want to land our fighter, potentially our bomber, down here. Probably move Kazakhstan infantry over this way, and then definitely build 4 units down there, because before our next turn, Germany's going to get to go. Now, maybe Germany can't get there, and that's fine, but Italy is also going to be able to get to go. And so if we are in a position where maybe we only have 1 or 2 guys in Ukraine, Italy might swing up here, can opener that, take that out, and then Germany maybe moves their tank, uses this transport to pick up some guys and drops off. It's not going to be a huge force, but if we think that having 1 guy in Ukraine is going to protect us, if Italy and Germany work together, that might not be the case. I think I actually had them reversed. It would be Germany in this case being a can opener, and then Italy attacking. And Italy has a transport, battleship, and 2 cruisers for coastal bombardments. So we need to be aware of that. We need to make sure that Caucasus is well defended. As we move this way, we don't really need to worry about a whole lot with China, at least early on. These infantry are probably going to be moving this way, as well as some up here. Now, we can position ourselves. We're not going to be able to take Manchuria the first turn. Maybe we never will be able to, depending on what Japan does. Maybe by the second turn we will. We want to keep an eye on it and concentrate infantry here. Now, depending on where the Japanese transport is, maybe you also want to defend Soviet Far East, maybe not. It is only worth 1 production, which isn't the end of the world if they take it. But if you got all your guys here and they come in here, then that does kind of sneak them around, which is kind of annoying. It's not terrible. Usually I leave maybe 1 or 2 guys there and concentrate everybody else here, because the moment that Japan leaves this open, and not necessarily leaves it defenseless, but just maybe I've got 5 infantry and they've got 2 infantry or something like that. Maybe they moved their fighter somewhere that had been defending here with infantry. Maybe they moved it somewhere and couldn't get it back to land. The instant that it looks like I have the advantage and can take Manchuria, I want to push down that way. Now, that's especially helpful if the U.S. is in the war over here and is either distracting the Japanese fleet so they can't swing around easily and take it back, or maybe the Americans are up here either reinforcing you or cutting off Manchuria from naval support. If the two of you can work together, that is going to be extremely helpful. Eventually, well, it depends on what else is going on, but if it's just you, the Soviet Union versus Germany, and especially Germany and Italy, you will eventually get worn down. It's going to be important that the Allies lend you at least some support. Now, what you're going to be doing for as long as possible is looking to see where the German offense is and counterattacking there. Trying to take out their tanks, trying to blunt their force, trying to slow them down. That definitely does not mean retreating. You're going to want to be counterattacking in ways that make sense. Don't blindly attack, but at the same time, you are going to be looking for those German tanks, and are they in a territory that you can counterattack and destroy those enemy tanks? Because it's going to take them a lot longer. Well, they're a lot further away from their base of operations over here, where they're putting new units down, than you are. At least with this border along here, they are. So when it's going to be more of a hassle for them to lose their tanks than it is for you. Now you have a weaker economy, and so that part is going to be worse for you. But if you can just keep blunting them, keep them from pushing too far in, then that's what that's going to be your goal, basically. And then you're going to be waiting for the other allies to come in, either to lend you enough aid to continue shoring up your defenses, despite your economic disadvantage, or maybe to come in and harm Germany from the other side, forcing Germany to distribute its its economic resources in multiple directions instead of just focusing on you, or until the Allies have really decimated Japan and knocked Japan out of the war. So those are going to be your goals, and some of the things that I focus on when playing the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union, in most of these Axis and Allies games, is one of my favorite countries to play. It requires a good amount of strategy without everything being on your shoulders. It's not like a Germany where you have to do 50 things and you have to do them all well. When it comes to the Soviet Union, you have to do one or two things. You still have to do them well. You still have to be paying attention, and you can come pretty close to losing the game for your team if you don't do them well. But you can be very focused, and there's less to forget about. There are less things to forget on your turn. You remembered 4 out of 5 things as Germany. Well, that's not good enough. You've got to do all 5, and you have to optimize your attacks. Soviet Union, you just have a couple. And just do those things really well. So those are my thoughts on the Soviet Union. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I plan to have a few more up before too long.